Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Siskind. I'm the author of the Playing Solo Jazz Piano, as well as the Jazz Piano Fundamentals series, all available for signed copies at jeremysiskind.com. And by the way, Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 3 is out now, and we're going to be talking about Pentatonics today, which is something that comes up quite a lot in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 3, and just is, endlessly interesting pentatonic scales. So one assignment that I've been giving to some of my private students is to play a solo on a standard that consists entirely of pentatonic scales, nothing else going on. And so I thought I would bring in this tune, You Stepped Out of a Dream, and show you guys some different ways to do it. So just a quick refresher in case you need a refresher on pentatonic scales. Pentatonic scales are based on the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 of a key. So this would be a C major pentatonic scale. Now, what makes, or E flat major pentatonic scale would be the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And these pentatonic scales in jazz are used as very modern kinds of sounds. They're very open sounding and they hold together very well. And for this reason, we can kind of superimpose all kinds of different interesting things with pentatonic scales. And so the first thing I think really to know is that you don't necessarily want to just use a C major pentatonic scale when you encounter a C major chord. It is possible to use C pentatonic over C major, but it's a little bit bland. It's a little bit colorless. Usually on a major chord, my go-to pentatonic is going to be the pentatonic based on the fifth. So think about the G pentatonic over C. You get the 5, 6, major 7th, 9th, and then 3rd. Okay, and so on that first C major, at least for now, we're going to go with a G pentatonic. Similarly, over the D flat major, we could go with D flat, but it'll be a little bit bland. So for now, we're going to go with the A flat pentatonic. It's a little bit of a brighter sound. While we're doing majors, let's skip ahead to the A flat major that's just below the D flat. And, again, we can say the same thing. We could say we could use A flat pentatonic, or we could use E flat. And then if we go just the line below that, we could use F, but it's going to be more colorful to use C. Okay, so all the way through on these major chords, we're going to focus on the red pentatonic scales, the ones based on the 5. So that brings us to dominant chords and 2-5-1s. And for our purposes, we're going to treat them kind of the same. Right, because, we could consider the chords here B flat minor 7 to E flat 7 if we wanted. So there's a few different things that we could do. Let's start simple, and we can use the pentatonic scale of the 1 chord of the 2-5-1 or the one associated with the dominant over that dominant 7th. Now, it's going to make it sound like a sus, but this is a very typical thing when you're doing modal or pentatonic kind of playing. So we could use A flat pentatonic over the E flat. And then over the 2-5 in F, the 2-5 in F, starting in measure 9, I'm going to use the F pentatonic, which goes beautifully with the G minor, and then it makes the C7 sound like a sus. Pretty nifty. Very kind of more, like I said, modal or modern sound to replace these dominant chords with sus chord sounds. And then again, for if you look in the next line, we have a 2-5-1 to G. And so we're going to use the G pentatonic. And let's do that same thing here. We're going to use D flat and C. This is just option 1. I'm going to give you some more options. So let's hear how this sounds, these first 16 bars. I'm going to use all the red pentatonic scales. And maybe it'll help you to see what I play. I know that you the timing's not perfect when I use this device, But if you ever want to pause and, get a voicing or kind of go through frame by frame or something and see what I play, at least it helps for that. So here's a little pentatonic solo on the first 16 of You Stepped Out of a Dream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4. Let's do it one more time. Sounds pretty good. The pentatonic scales can feel limiting, but I think they sound very bright, very fresh, right? So very cool. Now I want to give you kind of another level where we're going to choose more colorful pentatonic scales. And this might bring us slightly outside of the chords, but hey, we're jazz musicians. That's where we live, baby. So for these major chords, and I'm probably doing this more than I really would in real life, but just for the point, just for the effect, we're going to use the pentatonic scale based on the 2. And this is going to give it a very Lydian sound. So for the C major, we could use a D pentatonic. And so this is going to be, it's going to introduce that sharp 11. Very, very bright sounding. And then same thing as we get to the D flat major, we're going to use that Lydian sound with a pentatonic based on the 2. So let's continue down. We know where our major chords are now, and I'm going to write in blue all these pentatonics based on the 2. Okay. Now, for these dominant chords, there's quite a few things that we could do. One is that we could use the pentatonic based on the tritone. So we could use, for instance, and I should keep my color scheme going, we could use A pentatonic against E flat 7. And that A pentatonic is going to hit a ton of altered tones. Flat 5, sharp 5, dominant 7, flat 9, sharp 9. Really, really colorful. So let's try it using, oops, that should be a G there, using the tritone for each of these dominant chords. And I'm going to write these all in blue so that you can see them. So look at, now you can see the chart a little bit better. I don't know why I wrote G there. And one of the things that's kind of cool, if you look at measure 9, 10, and 11, that's a 2, 5, 1. I'm going to highlight it in purple. Do you see that now I'm actually going from F to F sharp to G? So it forms this kind of weird chromatic pretty cool way to play your pentatonics, okay? So now I'm going to play a solo using the blue pentatonics, and I'll let you see what I play in case it's helpful. And this is going to be a little more colorful. Maybe it'll sound a little bit out. We'll see. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try it one more time. Just getting used to these sounds. 1, 2, 1, 2. personally, that's probably too colorful for me in most situations, right? I would need to come down and resolve somewhere. So let's do a version before I show you one more pentatonic possibility for these dominant chords. Let's try a version where instead of, and this is, by the way, a common thing to do with pentatonics, instead of just choosing the blue, I'm going to do a mixture of the blue and the red. So let me show you, like, for instance, on the C major, I might play G pentatonic, D pentatonic, back to G. And so this allows you to put in that color while feeling a little bit more grounded. So listen, I'm going to do it in slower motion so you can hear the kind of undulation between the two different pentatonic scales. 1, 2, 3, and... time. So I'm going to start with G, D, back to G, and on that dominant, I'm using the E flat, so the pentatonic of the 1 against the pentatonic of the tritone, which is kind of fun because they don't share any notes. So now we're getting a mix of sounds between these two different pentatonic scales. All right, and one maybe last thing to talk about, there's always lots of options for dominant chords. Dominant chords are just so interesting. But one of them is that we could sidestep into other pentatonics. So, for instance, let's target, and let me make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to be in the second line. I'm going to target this E flat pentatonic from a half step above. So I'm going to use E pentatonic to target. Do you hear it? It doesn't really quite fit with the chord, but then it resolves into the E flat, which is what sidestepping does so well. Similarly, in the next line, I'm going to target this C pentatonic, and so I'm going to use the D flat pentatonic a half step above in order to target that. And then it's a little harder to do in that last line. So let's hear it just like this. So I'm going to play G pentatonic, D, C, E flat, A flat. And then I'm gonna start with A flat, E flat, B flat. So these pentatonic scales are really fun to play around with. And by the way, you might be thinking, well, how do you ever keep track of that? This is completely impractical. It's actually not as crazy as you think, because if you look, for instance, at these first three pentatonics, they actually only have one note difference between them. So C, if you change the C to B, you get G pentatonic. Then if you change the G to F sharp, you get D pentatonic. So actually, I'll often unconsciously be changing between these because I'll just be kind of playing these pentatonic patterns that one has under their hands and just kind of going between the pentatonic scales that feel very similar and kind of feel correct. So it might seem very intimidating to keep all of this in your head, but actually your fingers can do a lot of the work for you because these are so similar. All right, guys, that is it for today. But yeah, if this kind of stuff fascinates you, like it fascinates me, you're gonna find like lots and lots of detailed pentatonic instructions on voicings and soloing in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 3. Best available on jeremysiskind.com, but you can also find it on Amazon and other places. You won't get a signed copy from them though. And in honor of that, why don't we say John Hancock or something about John Hancock, not Herbie Hancock, John Hancock in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great one.